You have probably noticed lately that the world around you is beginning to behave as if it responds to your presence faster than you can even act. And the strangest part is that the reaction always appears a split second before your action, as if space itself already knows your next move. This is a clear sign that the higher powers have added you to a secret list of those who are ready for a quantum leap. A direct confirmation of this is when you merely think about turning off the road, and in that exact same second, the flow of people or traffic ahead shifts. It doesn't look like something loud or fantastical. On the contrary, everything happens within the boundaries of ordinary reality. You haven't even made a final decision yet, but the external environment has already rearranged itself to match it. Or, for instance, another sign from above is the moment you initiate an action, and the surroundings abruptly change in the exact area directly connected to what you are doing. Someone stands up, someone walks past, a path closes or opens, and all of this happens precisely at the moment of your inner impulse. Sometimes this manifests even more subtly, through a delay or acceleration of events that should have flowed evenly. You expect a situation to unfold normally, but it either speeds up for no reason or unexpectedly grinds to a halt, creating a distinct sense of a shift. Most importantly, this always coincides with the moments when you are internally at a point of choice, even if you don't fully realize it yourself. It is as if reality reacts not to your actions, but to the very fact of your intention. And this creates a profound feeling that the boundary between the internal and the external is becoming far less solid than before. Over time, you begin to notice that these episodes are no longer rare. They appear in different places, at different times, but always follow the exact same logic. Your impulse and the external change occur almost simultaneously. You no longer have time to separate cause from effect. A strange feeling arises that the world is not just around you, but is, in a sense, synchronized with you within a single responsive system. And the more you try to test it, the more precise these coincidences become. All of this points to one undeniable truth. You have been added to the higher power's secret list for a quantum transition. And in these moments, the most vital realization hits you. The world does not just exist parallel to you. It begins to align itself depending on your vibrations, attention, and decisions. If you notice this, even just on the level of raw sensation, it means you have already stepped beyond the boundaries of ordinary perception. This is not a figment of your imagination. It is a stage where reality ceases to be static and begins to talk back. Moving forward, this sensitivity will only intensify, transitioning into even sharper forms of interaction that will become impossible to ignore. There is an even stranger layer of external signs, which manifests through anticipation. It looks nothing like ordinary coincidences, because here, the very delay between your thought and the external world completely vanishes. You are just about to say something, and someone next to you already speaks that exact phrase, using the same intonation and almost the same rhythm. The first time you might dismiss it as a fluke, but then it begins to repeat in different places and with completely different people. And the oddest thing is that it happens precisely when the thought hasn't even fully formed yet. It is only just emerging within you. For example, you open a book or a website and instantly see the exact answer that formed in your mind just a second ago. Moreover, these are not generic topics or vague phrases, but highly specific expressions, sometimes almost word for word, as if someone had prearranged this fragment of reality specifically for you. You might even pause for a second, reread it, and try to find a difference, but there is none. In those moments, you feel that the boundary between the inner and the outer world has stopped working the usual way. It is as though the thought and its reflection are no longer separated by time. Sometimes this manifests even more subtly, through situations where you ask a question without saying it out loud, and instantly receive the answer within your surroundings. It could be a phrase in a conversation nearby, a random line in a text, or a headline that catches your eye at that exact second. It doesn't look like something intentionally directed at you. On the contrary, everything is completely ordinary, which is precisely what makes it so compelling. because if it felt obviously staged, you would dismiss it right away. But here, everything works through natural flow. Over time, you begin to notice that these anticipatory moments appear not only in words, but also in actions. You haven't even raised your hand yet, but someone is already handing you the object you need. You haven't even made the decision to leave, but the situation around you is already unfolding, as if your departure is a foregone conclusion. A feeling arises that space isn't just reacting. It is slightly fast-forwarding your intention, showing you the result before you have even fully formulated it. This creates a strange inner dissonance, because the usual link between cause and effect begins to blur. The more observant you become, the more precise these anticipations get. It is as if the very act of observation amplifies the synchronization between your internal state and external events. You try to test it, you slow down your thoughts, you observe yourself, but the effect doesn't vanish. Instead, it becomes even cleaner and sharper. At some point, you can no longer distinguish where your thought begins and where it has already been picked up by reality. And the most extraordinary part about this layer of signs is the feeling that you have no room for doubt. Everything happens too quickly and too accurately for you to step back and tell yourself it's just a coincidence. It is as if space leaves no gap between the impulse and its reflection, reducing the distance to an absolute minimum. It is in this very compression that the ultimate signal from the higher powers is hidden, a clear hint that you have been added to the list of those ready for a quantum leap. Because if the world begins to anticipate your moves, it means you have already entered a mode where it reads you before you even have time to define yourself. Sometimes, a sign of your readiness for a quantum leap manifests through a sudden change in the behavior of strangers around you. It doesn't look like something theatrical. Everything happens within the boundaries of everyday life. Yet, it is within this very ordinariness that the strangeness hides, because people's reactions occur without any visible cause, and always at the exact moment of your internal shift. A person who was completely lost in thought a second ago suddenly turns precisely in your direction, as if their attention was magnetically pulled. The most baffling part is that externally, nothing has occurred that could explain this gesture. Other times, surrounding conversations abruptly go quiet the exact moment you internally anchor yourself to something important. People might continue talking, but their tone changes. Pauses become more noticeable, and the flow of words loses its previous spontaneity. Another vital sign that you are ready for a quantum transition is a very specific feeling that is difficult to explain rationally. You begin to sense that you are not just among people, but in a space that reacts directly to the level of your attention, not to your actions, not to your words, but specifically to your focus. The mere fact that you lock onto something triggers micro-reactions in those around you. And even though none of them are aware of your inner state, the external changes happen in perfect sync with it. If you are beginning to notice this, it means you have already reached a level of observation where the external environment ceases to be fully neutral and begins to talk back. It does so quietly, almost imperceptibly, yet with absolute precision. This is how the higher powers hint to you that you have been chosen for a vital mission, a quantum leap of consciousness. And there is the ultimate external sign of divine election. It is the moment when completely different and independent sources begin to give you the exact same advice, as if multiple sages from different sides are simultaneously telling you how to act. It could be words overheard by chance on the street, a phrase from a stranger's conversation, a random snippet of text from a book, lyrics from a song, a message that suddenly flashes before your eyes, or a thought voiced by someone who knows absolutely nothing about your situation. Sometimes, the exact same message arrives through completely different channels multiple times in a row. And the strangest part is that none of these individual elements, on their own, look significant or unusual. You might hear a phrase that has no direct relation to you, yet it, with uncanny precision, articulates exactly what you were just thinking about. You might open a book to a random page and spot the answer to a question that has been haunting you for ages. You might turn on a video, and the very first thought you hear turns out to be the exact clue you were looking for. Such events begin to repeat so frequently that ignoring them becomes impossible. It is this multi-layered nature that makes the effect so undeniable, because if it were a single instance, it could easily be dismissed as a coincidence. If it happened twice, it could be explained away as a fluke. But when entirely separate sources begin to align into a single line of meaning, a profound sense arises that reality is no longer just randomly crossing paths with your inner state. It is synchronizing with it. Yet, everything looks completely ordinary. There is no thunder from the heavens. There are no mysterious voices or grand miracles. Everything unfolds through familiar, everyday events that most people wouldn't even notice. But someone who is at a pivotal stage of their journey begins to see an extraordinary pattern behind these small details. It is as if an invisible hand is gently guiding you forward. As if the space around you is actively participating in your destiny. And the more attentive you become to these signs, the clearer you realize that many of the answers have already been right beside you all along. At some point, the realization hits you that these repeating clues do not appear for entertainment or to merely surprise you. Their purpose runs much deeper. They help you stay on the right path when your mind is clouded with doubts and your heart is torn on what decision to make. This is precisely why many chosen souls share that during the most critical periods of their lives, they could literally feel the presence of an unseen guidance. And if such coincidences have started happening in your life more and more frequently, if answers arrive before you even have time to ask the question, if the exact same thoughts seem to reflect in the world around you over and over again, this is by no means an accident. Perhaps it is a sign that you have entered the field of special attention of the higher powers. Perhaps you are being prepared for the next stage of your spiritual path, a stage where it is no longer enough to simply watch the signs. You must learn to follow them. If you have begun to notice this, it means you have definitively been added to the higher power's secret list of those who are ready for a quantum leap. Those whose consciousness is gradually awakening to comprehend the deeper laws of the universe. Your task now is to not let doubts distract you, to not stray from your path, and to keep moving forward. Because the great journey of a chosen one begins precisely when you stop viewing everything as a coincidence and start seeing the hidden design behind external events. A design that, step by step, leads you toward your ultimate destiny.